Most firms survive, the best ones scale. Welcome to the Managing Partners Podcast, where law firm leaders learn to think bigger. I'm Kevin Daisy. Let's jump in. All right, we are recording. Lee, what's up, man?
What's up, Kevin? Thanks for having me.
My middle name is Lee. Probably didn't know that.
I was thinking when I was coming on here today that you could have a play on pushing daisies, right, with your podcast. You know?
Yeah, actually, it's funny. I moved from my hometown, which is an island, by the way, off the East Coast, and so really small area, small island. And people where I'm live now in Virginia Beach are like, "Man, you must have got picked on and beat up, for your last name being Daisy." And I was like, "Well, not where I'm from, because we own most of the stuff around the island. So, not that my family's not rich at all. It's just we have like a clamming company and like a dock for like fishing, just random stuff."
It's a good name. It's I guess it dovetails with branding, right? Like you could do stuff with it. Some people get these names. Like, what are you going to do with that?
That's right. Just like your name, right? So
I stepped in it, especially if you're going to be a PI lawyer. It doesn't hurt.
we're gonna get some branding and marketing here just in a minute, but wanted to just come out with a question for you. For my young attorneys or my new, those thinking about starting their own firm, I always like to focus on them. I have a lot of experts on the show and people that have done great things, but I like to make sure that, those ones that are about to jump out and hand their own shingle and all that good stuff. So what's some words of wisdom, something you would tell a new lawyer about to start their own firm right now?
All right, let me start with this, which is I was in their shoes because I did not plan for this. This is something that came to me as an offer I had to refuse from my old firm. And that's how this firm came to be. So a lot of what I can share, and I'm happy to do it, right? So if you have any listeners that want to shoot me an email, reach out to my team, schedule a call, happy to do it because I learned by necessity. But the more I've learned, the more I've been, enthralled with the process. And it's a new adventure every day, new entrepreneurial adventure, but in a space that, I was comfortable in substantively. So what's the one thing? And I used to laugh at my old managing partners at different firms, but cash flow. So you want to start out on your own. You got to figure out, hey, can I make it 90 days, 120 days before I see a dime? Because if you're an hourly billing firm, the work you do on day one, if you're lucky, you get paid on day 31. Maybe you got a retainer. But maybe you bill it on day 31, which means you don't see it maybe till day 60. Maybe it's day 90. So I think if you can get through that and start getting the cycle of money coming in, it'll allow you to sleep a little bit better. And that's not dissimilar to the contingency fee model, right? If you get that first case and they go treat for 3 months, your demand gets out, maybe you're seeing some money month 4. Maybe it's month 5. But if you can weather that storm, it gives you some peace of mind. And we can talk ad nauseum about kind of how to build the firm in a skinny way. But that's the key, right? Understand where your threshold is, where you're not taking any money and you got to be able to survive. So, what's that date that you can bite hard and get through it?
I mean, that's huge. I mean, in my business, I think, just having most business owners that I've known throughout my business life that, understand cash flow and focus on that. And no matter what your business is, and especially in the legal field, like you're saying, 4 months. I mean, I can imagine going back to when I started, if I had 4 months, 5 months without any pay no money coming in.
Kevin, think about it the other way. It's not just no money coming in, but you're probably bleeding out of every orifice because you're trying to market. You might have to go in the beginning. You got to pay your malpractice insurance. You've got to go get technology. Maybe you just are operating off of one phone. So the money's all going out and not all of it could be on a credit card. So you have hopefully a nest egg to launch. And then you have hopefully some money coming in because maybe you had a couple clients or you knew what you could do to start. But you have to have that tolerance because it's going to be painful in the beginning.
Yeah. Well, then I think it's the next thing you said is staying skinny, being efficient, not to get a couple good wins and then go, "Ooh, let me hire people I don't need, or add systems or technology I don't need, or get that awesome office. And I'm in my first year, and I just want to have that look that I'm doing good. But staying skinny and lean, and being able to grow efficiently, I think is massively important. So
And it depends on who your audience is, Kevin. So like I stayed super skinny for over a year, and I'm in an office now because I felt like I had to stop meeting clients at the coffee shop near my house. And eventually you're going to get big enough where you do have to purport a certain image. But a lot of folks, when I tell people kind of what I'm doing, leveraging technology, leveraging virtual staff, they're super intrigued because maybe they didn't think it could be done that way. And so you're showing them that you're working smarter and staying skinny. Who's going to tell you that's a bad idea?
nobody on this show, that's for sure.
Nope. Echo chamber.
Yeah, no, it's great. It's with the virtual staffing and technology, and you know being able to have video calls and things. It's just so much has changed in the last few years, last few months. You got AI. There's so many things out there that you can leverage and use to streamline your business, keep your costs down, but also improve the experience the client's having.
That's right.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, it's pretty cool. So real quick, obviously, Rudin Law down in Louisiana. You also are practicing now in Texas. But yeah, tell us a little bit about the name and the brand, and kind of, I guess, your story. Let's
Sure.
dive into that.
So I kind of alluded to it before. I came out of a defense model. I worked as a defense lawyer. I wouldn't say exclusively, but the percentages were high percentage defense work with a sprinkling of plaintiff, maybe commercial lit or some a little bit of personal injury for about a dozen years. I was at my last firm, which was a great firm and one that I really wouldn't have thought to leave, but organically I had grown this plaintiff PI practice and I loved it. I liked helping people. I liked, the sales component of it, trying to attract that client because it's not that easy to go attract an insurance company or a corporate client. There's a lot of red tape. So getting those wins can be very difficult. But when you're handling work for small businesses and individuals, there's a lot of those people and you meet them on the street, you meet them at the grocery store, and you can make a sale just by listening to somebody and maybe just doing a decent thing for them by just giving them a little bit of free advice and being a sounding board. And that sort of, I'll say, generosity with information led to opportunities to represent people, people close to me. Then they told their friends and their neighbors, and it began to snowball until I built a practice that rivaled my defense practice at the last firm. And my firm said, we never envisioned you building a plaintiff PI practice in our defense firm. And so we have to curtail your growth and we want to shift the money. And I said, you ain't doing the first one and you ain't doing the second one. And that was it. And I was leaving for vacation. They told this to me at my annual review. I was leaving 2 days later to go on vacation. I spent the entire time in Mexico, calling back to the US, trying to figure out from friends and colleagues, like, what does it take at a minimum to hang your own shingle? And once I knew what that was going to be, I figured out which of the clients would come with me. What kind of PI work did I have? What kind of hourly work did I have? How many months would it take to survive? I knew I had the tolerance for it. And that was it. June 1, 2023, we launched Rudin Law. So we're
Nice.
about to hit 2 years. We grossed seven figures in our first full calendar year. So that was awesome. We may double it this year.
That's huge, man.
So yeah, we're a lot of this business I've come to learn is a numbers game, and if you know how to pull the right levers in marketing and you're willing to take a chance sometimes, because you gotta be aggressive and you gotta know sometimes you might lose your shirt. But if you don't do that, you're not gonna be able to pounce on those opportunities. And
Yeah, and
so yeah,
that's that's awesome. Yeah, first year, seven figures. That's an accomplishment right there. Um,
appreciate that.
I know, um, it's an older stat, but it's a few years old probably, but I think it's like 4%. Is it 4% of businesses get past 1 million in revenue, like in the whole country or something like that? It's a small small percentage. So
Look, I can't imagine. More power to all the people that whether they do it because they wanted to or they do it because they had to. I was lucky to have been at firms with good partners and, was obviously running a different kind of business, but watching them run a business and they were generous with ideas and explaining to me how certain things worked. And I was interested in learning about it. Not as much the marketing, but at least the operations side. Because man, coming out not knowing how this is all supposed to work, because folks, I mean, you don't learn this in law school. And so a lot of it is just trying to figure it out. And that's why I love doing things like this or going to conferences and talking to colleagues and vendors, because you just learn kind of how the sausage is made. And if you figure out, if you take a liking to it, which I do, it could be really fun.
yeah, I mean, just falling in love with the business side of things is you know for me where it's at. I don't do marketing or SEO for clients or build websites. I haven't done that in a long time. I like what we do, but it's more growing the business and marketing the business and being successful and talking to clients and you know and winning. It's but then yeah, to your point, that's why I love this podcast and having people like you on the show or going to conferences. Like what else can you figure out and learn? What is Lee doing like that? Maybe I can apply to my business. And again, that's why I enjoy the show mostly more than marketing or getting my name out there. What I can pick up on. So it's pretty fun stuff. So you just dove right in and came right out the gate. You're almost in your second year. You might hit 2 million. I mean, that's pretty strong. So congratulations. I love
Yes.
your brand. Everyone check out is it getrude.com or getruden.com?
GetRoot.com. So this is the
Get Rude.
mentality, right? When I came out, my first calendar year was June 1 to, well, my first year was calendar year 2023. All right. So those 7 months, I was operating under a different slogan because I was doing hybrid work. I was doing some defense work, doing some plaintiff work. I joke, and I don't know if I can curse on your show, but I'm going to do it anyway. I said, you can't say fuck the insurance company and represent the insurance company. Oh,
You can.
when you can't. I mean, not if you want to do it with a straight face. So what I did was I'd be talking to folks like you and I'd ask them, hey, Kevin, are you tired of getting pushed around by the insurance company? And they'd look at me, they'd do what you just did. They'd smirk, they'd give me a wry smile. And I'd say, because you got to stop being polite and get rude. And they'd chuckle. And I said, I think this is going to work. I think it's going to work. It's silly to some, and to others, they're going to look at it like, yeah, that guy's going to get rude with the insurance company. But either way, they shouldn't forget it.
Yeah.
All right.
I
And
like it. Love it.
that's it. That's marketing, right? You just don't want to, when the accident happens, God bless you if it happens because they're underneath your billboard. All right. But if not, they got to remember who you are, and in this day and age, a lot of guys, they'll tie their brand to a phone number or something. I'm not a fan. I'll probably make fun of it on a social media video at some point. I got some ideas. Um, but and I don't have a last name that you can't do nothing with, right? Obviously I was able to pivot it into Rude because my last name is Rudin. But I mean, some folks, they've got these names and it's like, well, what are you going to do? Maybe you go with just your two law firm name. So you'll go with initials, an acronym, whatever. You got to make something happen. I'm just lucky that it works for the kind of lawyer that I am and my personality.
Yeah. And then also, um, so yeah, you got to stand out. You got to be yourself, and especially pulling those two things together, right? And not making stuff up or just kind of going in some direction. You're not really naturally that way. It's just not going to work out well for you. I think like you got your Rude Mania shirt on, which is awesome. And if you go to his
If you
website,
look over here, I'm gonna show you this. So that's the WWE Championship belt, and I can tell you a story about that too.
we got to hear about that for sure. But go to his website, take a look at the brand and the style of the website, and you'll just get a feel for how he's different than most of the law firms you would typically see down the street. Little bland, polished, kind of suit and tie, um, typical kind of firm. He's going the opposite direction of that. So you got to stand out. You got to be different, especially in this market.
Yeah, I mean, this is a market where maybe you or I or the folks listening to your podcast, we're not hiring somebody who's advertising because we're probably calling our friend and saying, hey, I got into an accident. Who should I use? Now, you still might use me, right? Or a peer of mine because we're quality, but you don't know that. We just happen to be advertising. My mentality is, in what business would you come out, try to operate a business and not tell anybody what you do? But lawyers do that all the time. And so I said, I don't believe in that at all. I think we should be out there marketing. But if I'm going to do it, because it is a chore, I want to like it. I want to have fun. So, you could check out my website. We've got a social media carousel towards the bottom, but go on to my Instagram or my TikTok or my YouTube. It's all at Get Rude Law. And I just want to have fun with it. So, like I told my social media vendor, I'm never going to write a static ad that says Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah. Like, I'm never doing it. But I will get dressed up as Santa Claus, or I'll spin a dreidel, or I'll get dressed like the Easter Bunny, or you name it. If I think it's going to be fun and silly and I can be clever about writing the script, like, I want to do it because I'll enjoy it and maybe it'll work. People don't know. You don't know what's going to work. You just try.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, your social media is phenomenal. So you guys got to check that out. So with Lee here, really, he's got the unique brand. He's having fun with it. He's enjoying the social media. He's enjoying the advertising. So that all comes through too. Like if you're seen or shown in video, people want to have that connection. I tell clients all the time, or any law firm with zero video on their website and they're not doing social. It's like people today need, before hiring a lawyer, they've never hired a lawyer. Hopefully, probably not. Like, what do they expect? They need to feel comfortable. They need to trust you. So there's a lot of conversion kind of tactics that kind of play out through social and through video or through your brand or your website where they go, you know what? I feel like, I can talk to this guy. I feel like he can take care of my case. I feel like he knows what he's talking about. And so, but first is getting noticed that you're even there as an option, right? So,
So
yeah.
Kevin,
So
my first foray into these videos, right? My real foray into what we're doing now. I playing a pickup basketball game, and it's a Saturday. I'm in the lane, and a guy comes through the lane, a big guy, and catches me with an elbow. And so I have the best shiner of my life, and I'm due to film content on Wednesday. It's Saturday. I'm like, what the heck am I going to do? I said, I'm going to rewrite all these scripts, and I'm going to write as if I have a black eye because I do. And so I did one like a boxer. I did one laying in a handicapped parking spot, having just gotten like knocked out after an accident. And I did one dressed like a clown. And my dad looked at me and he said, Lee, don't you think you're going to destroy your reputation dressing like a clown on the internet? I was like, Dad, what reputation? No one knows who I am. And so I got to stop and know me before they're going to care whether I'm dressed like a sheep or a clown or all the other things that I get dressed as. And maybe half of them will hate me, but the other half will be like, that crazy bastard, he's going to be the guy that's going to win my case because he's going to think outside the box to get the job done, just like he's doing on the internet. I don't know. I don't know what people think.
yeah, not being known is way bigger of a problem, right? Obscurity, right? No one knows who you are, what you do. That's your problem, more so than anything else. And so, um, you can't. Well, I think I've advertised too much in that area. No, you have not. Like, you cannot get yourself in front of the same people enough times, right? And so and if they even seen it, do they hold on to it? Do there's no, not a chance. So,
There's two things that I think I'll know that it really worked. If I'm walking the concourse at the Smoothie King Center or the Superdome, and someone's like, "Oh, that's the Get Rude guy," right? If that happens, that's one. And the second one is little kids dressing like you at Halloween. Then you know that your local marketing has permeated into the common space. And that tells you, like, all right, I think you've made an inroad. So we'll see.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
So yeah, anyone that's like, yeah, I don't think it's too much or whatever. Yeah, you have. If you're new, you have no reputation. No one knows who you are, and that's your biggest concern. Honestly, you need to get your name out there. You need to be known. Yeah, like I think back to what you like. Have fun with it. Like if you're not having fun and you're like, ugh, I don't want to do this. This isn't me, or I don't like this, and it's not going to come through that you're enjoying it. So, that's super important.
But it's part of the job, right? So like that's the thing. If you want to be out there, no matter what, whether you want to be an advertising lawyer or not, you can't have a vacant or dormant social media profile because that's a place that people go to gather information. So your website can be as polished as you want, but if you have two posts and they're from 4 years ago and you have nothing on YouTube, which is, apparently the second largest search engine in the world behind Google, like if you're not doing that, you're doing yourself a disservice. And, the legal industry is funny because folks think they're holier than thou, but you're still running a business. So you got to do what's good for the business. Obviously, you want to do it the right way, ethically, and with the best interest of your clients. But like you said, obscurity, that's going to be the nail in the coffin.
As Grant Cardone says, if you don't know me, you can't flow me. He's talking about cash flow. He's talking about you can't hire him or buy one of his products or invest in one of his companies if you don't know who I am. You know,
When
so
someone told me, and I'm going to botch the statistic, that, Morgan and Morgan, the biggest 800-pound gorilla, right? They come into a market and their share of the market is sub 20%, right? That's the biggest player in the space. That means there's 80%. Now, my numbers could be off. They could be sub 10%, but that means there's
yeah,
80% of people that are hiring lawyers are out there. You don't need all of it. You just need a little bit of it, and you'll do totally fine. Make an impact on a lot of people's lives and and run a very successful business. But they got to know who you are.
yeah. So and the other thing I tell people too, like, oh, Morgan and Morgan's coming into they have a certain brand. Not everyone's wants to engage with Morgan and Morgan. Not everyone's gonna. It's not going to appeal to them. I know they're huge. I'm not going to probably have a lawyer that I'm going to get to talk with. Obviously, John Morgan's not going to be talking to me. Some people just aren't going to relate with that brand. It might not even just they might not connect with it for whatever reason. You can see 5 billboards and maybe that one just doesn't hit, right? So you got to think about your brand, your unique offering, who you are, and you're going to get certain clients that come to you. They're attracted to what you have, and some might go to them. But just because they market and come and try to saturate the market, they're not going to get all those clients. It's not going to
Like
happen.
I'm sitting
So
here, I'm drinking a Starbucks coffee, or I think about it in terms of a burger, right? Not everybody is going to want to eat that Five Guys burger or that Burger King burger. Some of them are only going to go to the boutique one-off burger shop. And if that's who you are, that's your market. You're not advertising to the folks that want to go get a quick burger or a burger that tastes the same every time. You want the one that's customized to your liking, that you can walk up and place your order the way you want it. Okay. So who cares that Morgan and Morgan came in? Or who cares that there's an 800-pound gorilla that's been in your market for a long time? They don't have enough market share that you should be worried they're going to put you out of business.
I mean, it's even better opportunity potentially because you're going to have the lawyers that pull back or they say, "Oh, I can't do it." Like you can say, "I'm going to be here to pick up everything they don't get." Like how do I become the one that gets the 80% or the 20% or whatever it is, your slice?
Or the disenchanted, right? The folks that have been there before. Maybe it's not their first accident. They've been down the road with the big firm and they said, I didn't like that customer service. I want to do the opposite. You could be the opposite. Or somewhere in the middle where you say, oh, you weren't happy because you kept getting moved from lawyer to lawyer because there was attrition. You hire us, you hire my firm, you're hiring me. Or you're hiring me and my one guy, my two guys, meaning I'm going to touch your case. You want to come meet with me? We'll schedule a call. We'll have a meeting. You're not going to be told you can never see me. That's crazy.
And the other thing too is this, like for me, we just had an all hands meeting today with my teams. We had 51 on the calls. We're over the 50 person mark.
Bravo.
Appreciate it. It's just crazy to think. But as you go, so say if you're new, you're just Lee. Lee's like, hey, you're talking to me. I'm going to handle your case. I'm going to sit down with you. But as you grow, you need to lean into and leverage the growth to the advantage. Oh, well, the guy down the street, he's just a solo guy. He's not going to be maybe available. Like you got to, play the part. And so, hey, we're a little bit bigger, but we're still nimble. I'll still be able to meet with you, but we have systems and processes and we'll give you updates and blah, blah, blah. And as you get a little bit bigger, you just got to lean into why we're better and and what we've learned and we've grown. And the Morgan and Morgans, they use, we're the biggest in the country, which is a massive accomplishment. It's not going to resonate with everybody though.
I think one of the second to last point you just made, I think, is critical, right? You can teach people or to explain to people, hey, I was there and I saw that, even though I was saying it was the best way to be on my own, it wasn't the best way because I needed a little bit of an army. And then I built that army. And then I saw there was another way to make it better. Systems,
Mm-hmm.
processes, maybe it's an assembly line model. Whatever it is, if you can convey the message and resonate with people that you can deliver the service that they want or that they need, and that the other way that others are doing it isn't the right way, I think that's how you get your wins.
Yeah, 100%. I think I've had some lawyers that I've talked to. They're like, "Well, I like to have real connection with my clients, and if I grow, that's not what I want." And so they're just thinking small. And they're thinking, they're just trying to avoid the growth, right? Like you need to grow. You need to invest in systems and processes and make the experience for the client better. And that's just part of growing. And so you can look at the Morgan and Morgan and say, "Hey, they did all that very successfully, so much so that that's where they are now." But they now appeal to a different kind of clientele and they won't appeal to others. And so that they can lean into what makes them different, which is we're the biggest law firm in the country. And some people might want to go that route. So today's episode is brought to you by Answering Legal. Now, I just switched my company, Array Digital, over to Answering Legal, and it's made my life a whole lot easier. If I can't get to the phone, their 24/7 virtual receptionists take the call and take them through a full intake process, so we never miss new business again. Now, Answering Legal has been at this for more than a decade, and they specialize in answering phone calls for law firms like yours. They even have a brand new, easy-to-use app, and they integrate with all the top legal softwares and platforms. So, for my listeners today, we actually have a special deal of a 400-minute free trial offer of Answering Legal services that you can try out by going to answeringlegal.com/array. You can also call 631-437-4803 and use special code DAISY. That's my last name, DAISEY. So go check them out and let's get back to the show.
We were talking offline about, what you can do to leverage technology and virtual staff and things like that. And so because you said, you talk about scale and one of the things you start out small, necessity is the mother of invention. So you figure out, how do I operate bigger when maybe I don't have the financial bandwidth to do it? Obviously, technology can be the first lever you pull. But as soon as I discovered, offshore staffing, and I'd heard about it, but onshore, right? I would remember reading about firms, big white shoe firms out of New York, that were sending all their back office work to their white shoe offices in Cleveland because the cost of living was less, and so they could pay the back of house team that was very important, very competent, just didn't live in one of the most expensive metropolitan areas. Well, what we're talking about now is really not much different. I have a team. We are now 8. I've got 5 virtual. And I don't care if you're virtual living down the road or virtual living, down in another country. If you do great work and you're a team player and you're pleasant to be around and my clients love you, that's all I need. I don't care that people think about the virtual model as being something that they shouldn't touch. I think they're being foolish. And when I people what you can do and how many bodies you can add for the cost of maybe one domestic team member, seems like a no-brainer to me.
No, I totally agree. And I know a lot of firms that have been successful with doing that. And again, the client at the end of the day, they are worried about where they are, their case, their finances, whatever. You're giving them the best experience possible, the information on time, moving their case on through, and hopefully getting them the best result. It doesn't matter where the person is sitting that's doing the work. So, yeah, I think 100% leveraging virtual staffing. I know we use virtual staffing for like admin and each of my companies has a handful, and they've been just amazing. They're part of our team. They were on our calls today. Um, they're like full time. They're not, just working through some like video, like some portal. Like they're on our video calls every morning, interact with clients. They're doing real work and helping move things along and help the experience. So I think law firms should definitely, and I think not a lot of law firms are even considering this or even know much about it, to be honest with you, in the legal
What
space.
What's crazy to me, Kevin, is that if you could tell your client, "Hey, I have more flexibility. We could, if we get in a bind, I can cut my fees because I've kept my overhead skinny." And that means I'm not worried about making payroll or because I've done something to serve myself or because I'm not willing to be to think outside of the box. That seems like a pretty good selling point if a client gets, severely injured and you find out it's a minimum policy. But you've got the flexibility to be generous and make a mark on a person because you're not worried about paying some, older secretary's bloated salary just because they've been doing it for so long. Like, I don't buy that. I had so many people that worked in my office that were getting overpaid. Now that I see what folks outside the country, they can do that job and they're making a fifth of what this senior paralegal or senior assistant was making. It's crazy.
Yeah. What company are you using? Like a staffing company?
So I had sourced some team members originally through LegalSoft, but a lot my most recent hires, I actually now that I kind of understand what I need, I set up interviews through different like Upwork. I met some people and obviously the most important thing if you're hiring folks that are bilingual is that there's not going to be um, any issues with communication if you have folks locally that might not be able to understand. So that's very important to me. I have a bilingual client base, so it's very important that I have Spanish and English speaking team members. Look, we had somebody the other day, potential new client called, he messaged us. I responded to him. I said, someone on my team's going to call you. That gentleman is bilingual and his English is perfect. His Spanish is perfect. His English is perfect. And when he called, this person talked to him for a few seconds and hung up. And I messaged the guy and said, "Hey, what's going on? I heard the call got disconnected." And he said, "I don't want to speak to somebody who English isn't their first language." And I told my team, that guy can fuck right off. We ain't going to work for him either. Right? I don't appreciate that. I don't appreciate that because we got people in this community. I'm in New Orleans. We got people who
Mhm.
English isn't their first language either, and they're as American as they come. But so their parents speak Spanish at home, or they speak Russian, or a dialect of Arabic. Who cares? Yeah, I didn't like it at all, and I don't. But we don't need to. There's plenty of people that want our help.
Take on every client, and that's definitely in my case because I sign up long-term relationships when I have clients, so
That's right.
we got to be a little picky. But yeah, I mean, with my staff at Array, like we actually do a lot of Spanish translated content, SEO, ranking SEO for Spanish. Um, and I've actually was just talking to someone that's like they have a Portuguese niche outside of the Boston area, so Um, I think I have 5 staff internally that in the US that speak Spanish fluently. Um, and then, of course, some of our virtual assistants, speak Spanish.
What I've come to learn, and I've grown up a nice size Spanish speaking client base, and I've got some folks that are in the Arabic community here, and oftentimes people go with the people that they know, right? So maybe it's a Spanish speaking lawyer or an Arabic speaking lawyer, and then you come to find out that they don't get the sort of information that they should if they were speaking English and understood the documents that were coming through. And so I've gotten a lot of clients that come to me dissatisfied with the lawyer who's like them because they just felt like they got short shrifted. And so, I've got a team that can speak with folks where I can't sometimes, but you deserve to get the service that you should get if you were speaking English as your first language. And so, just because a lawyer's speaking your language doesn't mean they're doing the right thing as a lawyer, and that's got to come first and foremost.
Yeah, I feel like, speaking the language or having people available to speak the languages, it's an add-on, but you need to run the law firm properly and do things right by the client. and get them the information they need. That's way more important. I think if you can do all that and then you're able to serve them at their language too, that's the winning combination for sure.
And you
Yeah.
think, right? You would think that somebody wouldn't, sell you up the river, right? Just because you don't understand. But I've had folks come to me and say, "Oh, I settled the case for $10,000 and I was told I'm getting two. I don't understand. How could that be?" And I said, "Oh, your lawyer didn't explain where the money's going." They're like, "No, they just gave me a check and said sign the papers. No discussion on the front end, no discussion on the back end." And this a lot of what we do, right? We're counselors. We're talking people off the ledge. We're giving them education so that they understand. They're not always going to be happy, but they do need to understand, what the process is like on the front end so that, when you got to pay doctor's bills back and when you have to pay the lawyer back, they're not saying, "This is the first time I ever heard that I have to pay anybody back out of this settlement sum." It can't be when it's time to collect the check. They're going to be up the wall.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, they're
Crazy.
not walking away very much in that case. So
No.
yeah, well, no, this I mean, all huge things. But I would say, yeah, anyone that's especially newer, but if you're running a firm right now and you're always just looking for actually there's a guy next door to me owns a law firm and his um office assistant doing like 5 different jobs basically left after like 15 or 20 years. And he's like, I don't know what to do. He's like, how am I going to find someone? And, he's looking for someone local to fill that spot and do everything she was doing. And it's like, he's not going to find that. And so now he's doing it all by himself. He's solo again. So, um,
It's going to turn gray or lose his hair very fast. It's a lot.
well, it's just the old way of doing it. And I know a lot of lawyers like that are in that spot. And, he could hire some virtual assistants, maybe bring someone back in the office. That's what he's used to. Get them to do basic stuff and then get some virtual staff to fill it and see if he goes on vacation or gets sick or he or whoever, guess what? You're not down. Like he's doing filing and paperwork and everything now because he's back to where he was 25 years ago by himself.
Look, I said to somebody the other day in the context of AI, you wouldn't give a first year associate or a secretary an assignment without any proper instructions and expect it to come back perfect. You shouldn't give it to AI that way either. So, if you have a virtual team member and you want to give them something, try to explain it as best you can. We've got Loom to do videos. You've got Scribe to write SOPs. Like, you can
Hmm.
just record something as a voice recording. There's so many ways to convey the information and give them an opportunity to watch it again and read it again. So it's not just one and done. So you can do that. And then you got to give some time to teach. So go over the assignment with them. If it's not perfect, how else are they going to learn? And in the end, if they're just cogs in your wheel, you're going to have folks that are going to leave and be unhappy. You got to hopefully give them something that they can walk away with, even if they do walk away and feel like I grew at that firm. I'm better because I was there. And hopefully they leave with a good taste in their mouth if they leave at all.
Yeah. And I talk about this all the time. Like if you're not building a firm or setting yourself up to give folks a, a path and a vision that they see themselves growing, why would they stay? Right. As the entrepreneurs, the folks at the front, it's our thing. We're excited about it. It's everything we think about all day, right? Our staff, not so much, unless you create a place that they want to be at, that they want to see grow, that they can have people underneath them that they can see grow, um, whatever their goals are. But if you're not growing it, you're staying stagnant, you're not always trying to figure out new ways to do things, you're going to lose people for sure.
Look, Kevin, I mean, I'll give you just a silly, simple example. I got my team. I got folks in Nicaragua. They're in El Salvador. I got one of the new guys is in Colombia. They want to know, hey, when do we get Rude shirts? So I shipped everybody shirts. These are
There
the
you go.
most expensive shirts I've ever mailed, right? These $10 t-shirts are costing me hundreds of dollars. But if they're excited, they're part of the team. You would give it to them out of your merch room. Why shouldn't you give it to them just because they're somewhere else? And frankly, I was like, how many do you want? What do you want? And they were listed, oh, I want every design. Okay. If you're excited to have them, they're yours. I do that with my local clients. I give out all my stuff for free because if you will wear my name and wear my firm because you think it's a cool shirt or you like the branding, I would love it. It's free advertising. And I'm excited about it, like you said. I hope you're excited about it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, man.
I'm gonna need a shirt, by the way.
You
So
can have any shirt you want. These haven't even come out yet. We have a so I told you I would tell you. So I sponsor the local pro wrestling promotion, Wildcat Sports. And about 3-4 months into the sponsorship, they look at me like, Lee, would you like to be our on-screen general manager? I was like, I thought you'd never ask. But I go to all the events. I set up a table. I make different merch. I give it out. I meet a bunch of people. It's passionate fans about something that they love that I grew up loving. A vendor I didn't actually work with sent me that. And one day in the mail, I get this package. I'm like, I've never had one of these in my life, but this is pretty cool. I should show it in my office. But it's a fun way to meet people where they are, right? Something that they love. And my mentality is if they want to hire somebody that they know, like, and trust, they've met me, they know that I love the thing that they love. And so if that's going to be the selling point, that seems to work.
that's it right there. That's the connection, and that's awesome. Yeah, I used to love wrestling back in the day. I had friends that were really into it, like so much so that in their 40s today, they're still like, all into it.
So May
So
31st, I said I'm going to bring these Rudimania shirts out at our next event. So any of those Wildcat sports fans watching this show, I'll be there.
let's go, let's go. Yeah, you need to give me a shirt so I can pimp it on the show and at conferences.
The back says, "What are you going to do? Or what you going to do when we get rude with you?" And it's got like a silhouette of Hogan but it says Rudin Law on his bandana. So it's a cool shirt.
That's awesome, dude.
Yeah, you have to give me your size offline, and I'll drop it in the mail to you.
Absolutely. Well, I like your comment too about like your virtual staff. We do the same thing. So we do kudo like awards with our core values every day through Slack. So I could give you like, 10 points for passion and I say why and it all calculates. But so each month we have a winner and they get a bonus, cash bonus. And then every quarter we have a winner for each of our core values. And we get like they're like $300 or $400 like glass blown, like, they weigh like 20-pound trophies. And we'll send them to anybody no matter where they're at. So Colombia, or we got a employee that's really been with us for 4 years now. He's in Ecuador. So he's gotten one shipped to him. It takes a while, but yeah, we treat everyone the same.
I love when Customs grabs my t-shirts and is like, and you're going to pay an $80 VIG on top of the cost to ship the shirts. I'm like, guys, I love you. I must love you if I'm spending this much money on some crappy t-shirts.
Yeah, it don't make sense sometimes, but
Yeah, it is what it is. That's
yeah,
life.
man, that's awesome, man. I love everything you're doing. Love the brand. Love the tips. A lot of great stuff. If you're starting a firm, or if you're new at a firm, or maybe you're just, you're in your first couple years and you're kind of like stuck, and not sure what to do. I think a lot of great information here in this episode that Lee shared. Reach out to Lee, connect with him. I'm sure he would love to chat. If you're an owner, I can connect you if you want to talk to me, have any questions. I'm happy to do that as well. So, Lee, what's the best way for folks to connect with you?
Yeah, anybody that wants to reach me, my website's easy. It's getrude.com. My email is lee@getrude.com. You can call us at 833-GET-RUDE, which is 833-438-7833. But seriously, people were so generous with their time and their information when I was coming out that I feel like it's the right thing to do to pay it forward. So anybody that wants information, they want to know how to hire virtual staff, what I'm doing in making merch and where I'm sourcing it from. I mean, I've explored it all, AI, tech. Any way I can help, happy to do it. Just drop me a note.
Dude, well, I appreciate it. And I think we connected through Margarita, I believe.
Yeah.
Yep. So
Marketing
Margarita, if
boss.
you're out there listening, thanks for
Thank
connecting
you.
us. We were on her mastermind call together. So
That's right.
yeah,
That's
thanks for
right.
connecting me. And awesome, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in. As always, hope you've learned a lot from Lee. Lee, you stay on with me for just a second while we get this uploaded, and we'll see y'all soon.
Bye, everybody. Thanks, Kevin.